Now the latest from ITV News Meridian in the south.
Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian in the south.
Tonight's headlines this Monday evening. An end to the rubbish row in Brighton and Hove. The council and union make a deal, but when will the backlog be cleared?
Parents from Portsmouth head to the highest court in the land to fight for their right to home educate.
Also tonight, making sure your puppy is a healthy dog. Experts say there's been real problems in the pandemic.
And Poirot star Sir David Suchet on his return to regional theatre and his 5 decades on stage and screen. Good evening. The industrial action by refuse workers in Brighton and Hove has been resolved after an agreement was reached in the bitter row over working conditions.
Rubbish has been left to pile up over the last 2 weeks since members of the GMB union went on strike. It means waste will start to be collected again, but there's a warning there will be a backlog. Charlotte Wilkins has the latest.
Well, the streets don't actually look that much different. As you can see behind me, there's still rubbish piled up across lots of pavements, but the strike has been suspended and bin crews were back out on their usual Monday rounds today. Now, the GMB union members accepted an offer this morning made by the council, which means an end of the 2-week strike action. It also puts a stop to the 30 days of strike action, which was proposed to start on Thursday. Now, the deal needs to be signed off by councillors at a meeting tomorrow. Now, just to remind you what the bin strike was all about, it was to do with changes to bin drivers' rounds, but it later also became about pay. Now, Gary Palmer from the GMB has got some more information for us about what that offer includes.
Management will not be able to make the changes to the rounds which brought about so much stress and it started this trouble right from the start. So we're really pleased to say that the policy and procedure, the checks and balances throughout that procedure are all in place, and we're content that the management will now have to operate by them. So that's the main thing out the way. As far as the side issue, we believe that there is a reasonably, really good pay offer been put on the table that our members have already now accepted. We just need now for the council, I assume, to make sure that, of course, that can be funded and paid for by the city, and that will be concluded, I think, tomorrow lunchtime.
Well, the deal's not just good news for the city clean workers, but also for some of the council's lowest paid staff who will also get a pay rise. Now, it's going to take around 2 weeks for all this rubbish backlog to be cleared. Some of it was taken away over the weekend by contractors, especially in areas where there was a significant health or fire risk. And although the bins were being collected today by the City Clean team, a lot of the overspill, like this lot behind me, will take a lot longer to clear. I mean, the grabber trucks can't lift this stuff off the road, so it will take a lot longer to clear, but the residents are simply happy that the end is in sight.
Council tax is so high in Brighton, it should have been sorted, and I pay full council tax, and I'm not happy that the rubbish is building up and stinking.
Now I just know how useful they are and how important they are, to be honest. They're doing an amazing job because nobody wants to touch that.
Bin men used the power, didn't they? You know what I mean? They did what they did to get whatever they wanted.
We should take pride in Brighton being one of the tourist places, and to let this happen in the first place, it's like, it shouldn't really happen in the first place, should it?
Now, the council says it wants to apologise to residents, businesses and visitors to the city for the disruption during the last few weeks, and they want to thank them for their patience.
Charlotte Wilkins reporting there. A soldier who died during an army training exercise on Salisbury Plain has been named. Private Jethro Watson Pickering, who was 23 and from Redcar, belonged to the 1st Battalion, the Yorkshire Regiment. He was part of a crew operating an armoured vehicle in a training area near the village of Enford in Wiltshire when the incident happened on Friday. Wiltshire Police said a joint investigation with the Health and Safety Executive and the Army has been launched.
Investigations are continuing after a car crashed into Hythe Library. Emergency services were called to the incident in Pilewell Road just before midday yesterday. Both occupants of the car were uninjured and managed to exit the vehicle, but firefighters had to work to free them from the building. The library has remained closed today while the damage is being assessed.
We'll await further instruction and guidance from the experts who are looking at the extent of the damage and potentially what the situation is when the car has been removed, and then plans will be put in place to make it safe, arrange for repairs and hopefully get the library open as soon as possible.
Families in Portsmouth have been at a hearing at the highest court in the land to fight over their rights to home educate their children.
The local authority has issued several orders instructing parents to send their children back to school unless they can prove they are being well educated at home.
But the parents say the local authority is acting unlawfully. Our social affairs correspondent Christine Orsford has been at the hearing.
Well, this case goes right to the very heart of a parent's right to decide how to educate their children and then how that should be measured and monitored. Now, the case is being brought by a group of families from Portsmouth who home educate their children, many of whom we met in our programme last week. Now, they say that Portsmouth City Council has been acting too rigidly, asking them to provide evidence of things that they just aren't required to do by law. Things like timetables or formal written work that you would normally associate with mainstream schools. Now, the 5 families attending today's judicial review argue home education is different and they're hopeful that the hearing will rule in their favour.
So we're really hoping to get a decision that will clarify what the local authority is allowed to ask for at the initial stage when they make contact with home educators and what kind of evidence they're allowed to demand.
We'll set a precedent as to what local authorities can and can't ask of home educators, and that is massive for all of us because what Portsmouth are currently asking for, it doesn't reflect how home education works at all. They're asking for things that home educators just don't do or produce, or most home educators don't do. So it's huge and we've really noticed national groups are all supporting us. We've got national support for this, that's how we managed to raise the money. So yeah, it's huge for everyone, and I think for even people that aren't home educating, it gives them the choice to do that.
The court heard how one family had produced an 11-page report detailing how they were educating their 3 children. It included information about their 13-year-old daughter, how she was reading To Kill a Mockingbird, the novel, and also how she was an avid reader, preparing to take her GCSEs a year early. But the local authority failed to accept this as evidence and took legal action against them, demanding they send the children back to school. Lawyers acting for Portsmouth City Council said the local authority had to ensure a suitable education was demonstrated and corroborated with evidence, not just based on a parent's say-so. Now, this is very much being seen as a test case with implications for home educators up and down the country, and the full decision will be known in a few weeks' time.
Christine Orsford there. A driver who pulled out of a junction into the path of an oncoming motorcycle has been given a suspended prison sentence. The rider, now aged 63, was travelling through Ditchling when he hit the van in August 2019. He's now paralysed from the chest down. Graham Ashen, who's 58 and from Horsham, pleaded guilty to dangerous driving and was sentenced to 21 months imprisonment, suspended for 2 years.
COVID figures continue to fluctuate in Brighton and Hove, with the latest data showing cases have risen by more than 10%. The city's Director of Public Health is once again urging people to get tested, though the weekly rate is still lower than the region's average of 350 cases per 100,000.
The return of the Cowes floating bridge could be delayed again after further issues with the ferry were identified. It's been out of action since August because of a major engine fault. Its return had already been pushed back until mid-November, but a further delay is now expected.
You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region, and remember you can find more on today's top stories by visiting our website. Please go to itv.com/Meridian. You can call us, the number is coming up on the screen shortly, and remember you can also follow us, that's on Facebook and on Twitter. Experts are warning of a puppy health and welfare crisis because of the way people bought and looked after dogs during the pandemic. There was a huge spike in demand for puppies during lockdown, but it's feared many people got a dog without being able to do proper checks on the breeder.
There are also concerns that as we move away from working from home, some owners will regret their pandemic puppy purchase. Kevin Ashford has more.
Walk, 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 walk. Good boy.
Daniel bought his corgi Rupert from a reputable breeder. Before buying, Daniel was able to visit the breeder's home and see Rupert and the puppy's mother. But earlier in the pandemic, Daniel and his fiancée bought another puppy called Eddie from a different breeder. They couldn't go to that breeder's house before the sale because of coronavirus. And when they got Eddie home, they discovered the puppy had a number of health problems, and Eddie died soon afterwards.
We only had him for 4 days. We fell in love with him immediately. Sadly, he's probably spent more time in the vets than he did with us, and we didn't even get to say a goodbye. We went to go and see him to say a goodbye because the vets told us that he didn't have long to live, and on the way to the vet they said we need to put him down because he's going through a really torrid time. So we made that really painful decision.
Research suggests the pandemic's had a big impact on puppy buying habits. According to a Kennel Club survey, more than 1 in 4 people in the south admitted buying their pet without meeting it beforehand, while just under 3/4 said they would buy a dog the same way again. There have been other trends too. Nearly a fifth said they'd put off completing post-purchase admin tasks, like getting insurance or booking vaccines. The Kennel Club says the pandemic is threatening years of campaigning to change people's behaviour when it comes to buying a puppy.
We've developed this click and collect mentality through the pandemic, and of course a puppy is not quite like anything else you buy. It's an animal that's going to spend the next 13, 14, 15 years with you, and therefore it's very important you make those decisions early on. And of course, if you're seeing a puppy without seeing its mother, without seeing the environment that it's been bred in, then you've got a really big chance of buying something that's not right, a dog that's unhealthy or a dog that's going to have possibly behavioural issues for the rest of its life.
The Royal Veterinary College says, as well as an increase in puppy health problems because of the pandemic, they fear there'll also be a rise in the number of unwanted dogs, as some owners regret their lockdown purchase.
We worry in terms of dogs being relinquished. We already know from animal welfare charities that that is happening to some extent. We know that puppies particularly, around their first year, go through a period of adolescence or a teenage period where they become more disobedient, and owners might be starting to feel quite frustrated that this isn't quite what they wanted from their dog. And we know that that risk period for being given up is unfortunately mainly in the first 2 years of life. So we're concerned about a potential boom in dogs being given away right now.
Experts are urging owners to get help if they're struggling to cope with the puppy that they bought during the pandemic. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Now, many people are trying to live more sustainably and cut down on single-use plastics, opting instead for reusable coffee cups and carrier bags. But would you be prepared to do the same with nappies?
A growing number of parents say they want to be greener, and the government says it's currently looking into the environmental impact of both reusable and disposable nappies. Lauren Hall has more.
Even babies can do their bit for the environment, according to Megan Neal. She runs a cloth nappy library in Oxfordshire, encouraging parents to make the switch from disposables to reusables, something she did with her young son.
I think that the benefits are that you can save a lot of money because you just need your little group of nappies and then you can reuse them. They look really pretty because you can get really nice patterns, and obviously they're really good for the environment as well.
There's a growing number of parents choosing reusable nappies.
They're sealed with Velcro. One size fits most babies.
This company makes cloth nappies, and it's seen a huge rise in demand over the past few years.
We were listed last year in the 100 fastest growing companies in the UK, and you can see that throughout the industry. And I think for parents who walk down the aisles of supermarkets and pharmacies and look online, the availability of reusable nappies has never been greater, and that's because the demand is there.
That said, there's still plenty of demand for disposables. Here in the UK, around 3 billion disposable nappies end up in landfill each year. That's around 2 to 3% of all household waste. The body representing the disposable nappy industry says they are making improvements and that the alternatives still have an impact on the environment.
It's important to remember that both types of nappy carry an impact. Cloth nappies consume water and energy and detergent. Disposable nappies create waste. Over the last few decades, disposable nappy manufacturers have reduced the size of nappies, which means there's less waste, there's less raw materials, there's less plastics, transport and energy. And I think this, combined with the fact that they are so easy to use, they work so well, they are the preferred choice of around 95% of parents.
It's certainly the nappy of choice for most families. We spoke to some of the parents at this playgroup to find out why.
I feel guilty about using them, yet it is my convenience that I use them.
I actually get biodegradable disposable nappies, and I use cloth nappies as well.
Environmental issues are very important, increasingly so now. But I would say the difficulty as a parent is finding the time to do all that additional cleaning.
Disposable nappies are convenient, and yeah, I wouldn't have any other way. No, sorry.
Research is now underway to assess the environmental impact of both reusable and disposable nappies. The results are due to be published later this year. And for some parents, it may mean a change of nappy at nappy changing time. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
OK, time for the sport now with Sarah Gom. And Sarah, some big results of the weekend.
Absolutely, Andrew. Yes, there were some great goals this weekend, and some were scored by sides from across our region. One earned Southampton a First League victory, and while Brighton couldn't land a goal, they are up to 4th in the table. The next two opponents in the Premier League are above them, Manchester City and Liverpool. Chris Morn begins our roundup with success for Saints at St Mary's.
For the love of the game. eBay sponsors ITV Regional Sports Reports.
Southampton created first half opportunities against Leeds. Nathan Redmond and Armando Broja both threatened. And for the decisive moment, Redmond led the Saints charge before teeing up Broja. The 20-year-old Berkshire-born Albanian international had marked his first Premier League start with a match-winning goal. Saints had their first league win of the season, to the very evident relief of the manager. Leandro Trossard hit the Norwich crossbar, and although Brighton extended their unbeaten Premier League sequence to 7 matches, neither side could deliver Carrow Road a goal. A point earned sees the Seagulls flying high in 4th. To the Championship, and thoughts were with David Brooks, the Bournemouth midfielder now having treatment for Hodgkin lymphoma. On 7 minutes, Ashton Gate rose in support of the 24-year-old. From Jack Stacey's cross, Jamal Lowe celebrated his first league start for Bournemouth with the opening goal. A fine finish, but that was topped by this from Jordan Zamora. The Cherries on top, 3 points clear at the summit of the Championship. Reading made it 5 wins from their last 6 matches, edging a tight contest against Barnsley with this. Scott Dan's long pass and John Swift's dancing feet brought his 8th goal of the season, and the Royals are up to 7th. Chris Morn, ITV News.
Leagues 1 and 2 now, where the reaction from Portsmouth fans to Saturday's defeat has been far from complimentary, with supporters just hoping for better things from tomorrow's match against Ipswich at Fratton Park. Portsmouth boss Danny Cowley says his team just went under after conceding 3 times in 7 minutes at Rotherham. Marcus Harness drew Pompey level shortly after the break, but that goal simply provoked a decisive response from the hosts, who sit up in 5th place. And it was a similarly disappointing afternoon for Oxford against Plymouth at the Kassam. Despite Matty Taylor's opener on just 5 minutes, the Pilgrims marched on to secure their place at the top of the table. In League Two, Crawley Town were forced to issue a warning over their public address system during their home defeat to Sutton United after visiting defender Kobe Rowe told officials he had been racially abused by home fans. In a statement, the club have asked for anyone with information to contact them or Sussex Police. And a hard-earned point for Swindon Town from their encounter with Rochdale. Ben Gladwin's half volley gave them the lead, but that was cancelled out, and with just seconds on the clock, the Robins were 2-1 down. Wales midfielder Johnny Williams, though, stepped up to claim the point deep into stoppage time. And for footballers outside the professional leagues, the first round of the FA Cup is a goal in itself. And Banbury United have been drawn against League Two Barrow after reaching the first round for a second successive season. Horsham of the Isthmian League have a long trip to Carlisle. Havant and Waterlooville must win a replay to earn a visit to Charlton. Oxford and Portsmouth have home ties, while Brackley Town could still secure a first round tie at AFC Wimbledon. And many thousands of runners and spectators welcomed two of the region's biggest running events back this weekend. The Oxford Half Marathon wound its way through the city, and the Great South Run returned to Portsmouth and Southsea, taking runners through the streets on a 10-mile course. The first male across the line was Aldershot club runner Jack Rowe. The fun runners were just glad to be back.
Yeah, and we did the London Marathon 2 weeks ago.
So we're looking forward to this because this is going to be much shorter.
It's great to be racing again, seeing people again and seeing friends, so loving it.
Yes, they are just happy to be back, even when dressed as a shoe. Well done, the shoe.
A soulful performance.
Very good.
Thank you, Sarah.
Brilliant. Now, you'll know the name, you'll know one of his most famous characters.
And Sir David Suchet, star of stage and screen, is here touring the region in Brighton from Thursday for his one-man show, Poirot and More, a retrospective. Earlier, we spoke to him.
Sir David, lovely to see you. You played Hercule Poirot for over 25 years, and although the TV series may have ended, he's very much with you in this show, isn't he?
Yes, he is, and the show is David Suchet, Poirot, and More, and that's it. It's very much centred around Poirot, but it encompasses my whole life and career, and we start from the very first role I ever played, right through my early school days, my early performances, going into repertory theatre, Royal Shakespeare Theatre, leading into television, and ultimately with Poirot. And then I also do a workshop in the second act, and I do some speeches, I do some Shakespeare speeches, I talk about Shakespearean verse because I was with that company, wonderful Royal Shakespeare Theatre, for 13 years. And then we go right back to Poirot, how I developed the character in great detail.
You played Poirot for such a long time. What effect did it have on you personally when he died in 2013?
It had a very great impact. It wasn't like an ordinary situation of an actor, dying in character. I'd been this man, as you say, for 25 years. I was saying goodbye to somebody who changed my life personally, because he gave me such a wonderful regular employment. And he also raised my profile so that I became bankable in theatres, not only in London, but also in the regions, and indeed in many English-speaking theatres around the world. So he made me what we call an actor who can bring in an audience. And therefore I played the most extraordinary roles in the theatre, while at the same time playing Hercule Poirot. So I had a wonderful, varied, extraordinary, gifted career given to me because of that little man, so that when I said goodbye to him, I was saying goodbye to one of the great influences of my life and almost my very best friend.
So David, after the hard time we've all been having during the pandemic, what is it like being back in the theatre?
Well, Andrew, you're absolutely correct. It's been a terrible time for the theatre industry, as it has for so many, many people. This whole tour is taking place at this particular time because I love the regions. I started my career in the regions, and I'm doing this tour to welcome the regional audiences back to their theatre as we are getting used to living with COVID. COVID's never going to disappear, and we don't want our audiences to disappear from the theatre. So this is what I'm doing. I'm going around saying, come on, come back to your theatre, wear your masks, but feel safe, and come back to your very special place that's been having such a very hard time and has been missing you very much.
So you're at the Mayflower Theatre in Southampton on Sunday, Canterbury on Monday the 25th, Chichester on the 9th and 10th of November. In fact, you're up and down the country and in London in January. It's a busy few months ahead.
It's a wonderful busy few months ahead. I'm having a ball. For an actor my age to go out on such a regional tour as this is quite an extraordinary experience for me. I'm loving every minute.
Sir David Suchet, thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome.
So nice.
Yep, he's having a ball.
Here's Holly now. Holly, we had a gorgeous sunrise this morning.
Did you see it? I opened my curtains this morning and I thought my weather inbox is going to be full this morning, and I was right. Our viewers did not disappoint. So let's take a quick look just in case you missed it, or maybe you don't believe me. Here's the first one. It came in from Jean and John of Coastal, JJ, and this came in from Selsey. Look at those colours.
Oh, it's just
beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Isn't Beautiful. It? Stunning. And there are more where that came from. This next one, Kim and Charlie Curtis on their walk in North Winchester, just looking...
oh, well done, Kim, getting that picture. Amazing.
Beautiful there, isn't it? This next one from Richard Midgley. He says, this is all Mother Nature, no filters applied in Porchester. We've got this one, thank you to Samantha Tilbury in Felpham. She caught this one over her house. And finally, James Landis captured the colours in the sky and mist on the ground here in Alton.
Oh, gorgeous.
Thing is, Holly, you know what they say about red mornings and what the shepherds say? Is it true?
Do you know, there is some truth in it. So it's not entirely foolproof, but certainly it came true today, didn't it? So in this part of the world, you get the sun rising in the east and typically weather systems, weather fronts come in from the west. And what you need for a great sunrise or sunset is good cloud. So what weather fronts do is they throw cloud ahead of them like this. They start high and it gets lower and thicker until you get this great hunk of cloud and you get the rain moving in. But if you're far enough ahead of the weather front, it acts as this lovely layer of cloud which the sun comes up underneath and illuminates. So actually, this sort of weather is perfect for lovely sunrises, but it does mean that rain's on the way, yes.
Oh, right.
Not always, but often.
So is that what you're going to tell us about in your forecast?
Well, we've had a bit of rain today. There is more in the forecast, bit of a mix, have a look.
Gory details now. Here's Holly.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Meridian weather.
Well, after the lovely sunrises this morning, a much greyer look through the bulk of today. This was Swanage earlier on. This week, I think, often unsettled, but there will be sunshine around at times, although also a real change in temperatures. So very mild initially, but turning much chillier later on in the week. So the bigger picture shows this feature that's been affecting us today. We have got this very mild air with us, but later on tomorrow, this weather front comes in. Tomorrow evening, I think we'll see some lively rain associated with that. Very unsettled into Wednesday, potentially very windy. And then for the tail end of the week, we've got this plunge of colder air, and I really think we'll notice that change. At the moment, a lot of cloud with us. It's low, it's misty, it's murky, hill fog around, bits and pieces of rain coming and going, quite a breezy wind around as well. But ever so mild, so temperatures are low temperatures, 15 or 16, which is closer to what you'd expect to see by day at this time of year. Some rain around at first tomorrow morning. Some of this could be on the lively side, the heavy side, but it does brighten. So as we head into the afternoon, I think many of us getting to see some sunshine. We have got quite a brisk wind with us, mind you, but it is very mild, so temperatures high teens or low 20s. Our times of high water, Portsmouth there 11:26 and again at 11:35 into the evening. Very unsettled, potentially very windy into Wednesday, turning brighter after that, but turning that bit colder as well. Take care.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Meridian weather.
In just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Andrew will be back here with your late update. That's just after 10:30. Do join him if you can. For now, though, from the team here, thank you very much for watching and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.